Hey everyone, this is Ben from Cheddar Flow, and I actually wanted to start off this video by reviewing some SPY flow from Thursday after hours. Remember, we had the long weekend, so we had Friday off for Good Friday, and then today is Easter on Sunday, so we had that longer weekend. And actually on Thursday, we kind of saw some orders get snuck in before that long weekend. This occurred after hours here. We had a lot after 4 p.m. Eastern. We saw a $5.5 million in premium 419 put. We saw a $3.4 million for the 419 as well, and just a ton of premium going into it as well over here. We have the 4.3 million, the 807,000 over here. So a lot of premium going into that 419 strike, and also it's basically within the next month of expiration. So this is very, very aggressive put flow on this. These people are, whether they be hedging for the long weekend for something bad potentially to happen, to maybe go down and gap down and hit 419, or they actually think it's going to happen. It's definitely something we need to look at prior to open on Monday, because this is a lot of money going into this. We want to see, is there going to be that downside? Are we going to gap down pretty big after the weekend, or is this just going to be a hedge and we actually continue to rally upwards? So something to look at, something to be careful for, and also a level to mark on your chart, because 419 has seen a lot of activity, and typically when we see a lot of activity with a lot of premium on a certain strike, that tends to act as a support level if it is hit in the future. So something to potentially mark on your chart, and yeah, good to know that all of these were hit after hours on Thursday. So another interesting thing that we saw Thursday after hours was this large $613 million worth of a dark pool print at the low of day. So that 437.93 on the S&P 500. And basically this occurred near the double bottom of the previous 2 days of trading. So I'm on SPX's chart right here, the index for the S&P 500, and basically on April 12th, we hit around like this 4,380 level. And now we actually fell back down to it around that level, and there was a dark print that happened after hours near that low. So there is the potential that somebody was buying prior to the weekend. However, there's also the potential, as we know with dark pools, that they were selling prior to the weekend, even though it may have occurred near lows on the chart. Because, as we know, there could be a potential gap down that maybe these guys over here were predicting, a potential gap down over the weekend, and they wanted to sell out before that happened, even though they were selling out near lows. Something to note, because I have seen that happen. I've seen that scenario. Typically, when you see a dark pool print happen near the lows of a day or the last couple of days in a row, that in my opinion has been a buy. However, it does not always have to be that way, especially when you have a long weekend. A lot of things can change over a 3-day period, so something to note. But this is quite a bit of money going into that 437.93 spot price on there. So something to definitely note, especially if we do gap up, because if we gap up and stay above this level, that's going to be pretty bullish because of how significant this level is now for us. If we do gap down below it, then this potentially could have been a sell. And if this level is not reclaimed intraday on Monday, that's actually a very bearish sign, and we probably will continue down lower. So something else to note there. We did have a little bit of our signature print activity on Thursday. However, it wasn't insane. We actually had more insane ones that occurred. I'll go over here to our dark pool levels feature. We had more insane ones that occurred earlier in the week. So if we go to the 13th, we had 3.1 billion worth of premium at that 438.42 level. So definitely a lot of accumulation again, because remember before this, if you looked at our previous weekly recap video, we were barely getting any accumulation. We were seeing like only 800 million in a day, maybe just 1 billion in a day. Now we're seeing 3.1 billion. If you look back on Tuesday here, we had not as much there, but on Monday, I remember we did have a lot. So it's kind of coming in periodically. Yeah, we had 2.5 billion on Monday. So you can see that the accumulation in terms of the dark pool is starting to gain a lot more now. So this could mean that people are accumulating for a potential upside move. However, could be for the downside. People want to sell before we go a bit lower. So something to note for sure. Next ticker I want to talk about is Apple. Now the flow on this one is pretty bearish, but the chart looks even more bearish. So I'll go over to that really quick. We actually talked about this one in a technical analysis video, and I told you about this purple trend line that I have right here being very significant. And it actually ended up being very significant. We had a day below it. However, it did reclaim around this level, and we've actually consolidated directly on this trend line because of its significance until on Thursday, we had a massive down day. And if on Monday of this upcoming week, if we don't get back over this trend line, this is probably going to continue down to this 160 level, which was a previous very large dark pool print and will provide some form of a support, as well as the back test of this previous channel. So we see a blue line right here and another blue line here. This is the support of the channel, and this was the resistance of the channel. When we broke out of that channel, in the future, if we were to retest this channel, it would act as a support because it was a previous resistance. And this support level kind of converges with that 159 to 160 range-ish. So this would be the next level that we would fall to if we continue down on Monday. And this is just something that you need to know because Apple is the largest holding in the market. So if Apple is going to continue to fall down to like 159, 160, the market is probably going to continue to fall as well. And one thing with that, on SPX, I know I have a lot of my chart here, but basically in order for us to bounce, it would have to happen within this current demand zone that we're in. And what I mean by that is this right now is our current demand zone on this. So we're trading within here and it's going to break in either direction eventually. So we'll either break to the upside or we're going to break to the downside. If it goes to the downside, the next zone, next demand zone would be this level right here. So there's a bit of a gap below here and you would probably see it fly through and then get down to here and then consolidate again. But this is a potential path on that one. But yeah, it could fall down to this level and then maybe consolidate around here. Or again, like I said, in the inverse, we could go up to the next, what we call a supply zone, which would be around this range right here. As you can see with the chart, and then we would maybe consolidate around here, maybe continue to go up. So there's always a potential in either direction. You have to remember that it's never, oh, somebody knows where the market's going to go. No, it's all probability, and we take probability with our risk reward setups. We know the best risk reward for us based on the chart and the flow, and we take the best possible setup for us because we never truly know where the market's going to go. It's all about just finding those good setups. So something to note here for sure, and the potential paths for SPX. And then also, like I said, with Apple here, there is a lot more potential downside if we do not reclaim this trend line very quickly in this next upcoming week. Last one I want to talk about is IWM. We've talked about this before in previous videos and also on the Twitter account. This one is the weakest index that we've discussed just in terms of its overall performance so far. And we talked last week about the fact that it's a bear flag right now. So we see the flagpole right here, and then it's consolidating in this pattern. And also it had this head and shoulders within the bear flag, which is a bearish setup. And now we're testing the lower end of the trend line. Basically, it's just been consolidating around the lower end of the trend line, waiting to make its move in either direction. Will it bounce up and then maybe test the top again here, or will it continue down? We're going to have to find out. Once we get confirmation that direction it goes is going to be very, very important, because if the direction it chooses is down, that's going to weigh a lot on the other indexes like the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. So we need to be very careful right here, because once this thing actually confirms it's going down, it's going to put a lot of stress on the market in general, and also could be a very good trade setup. So the IWM flow right now is actually very bearish. I filtered for over 1 million in premium, which you could do in the filters over here. And basically, this thing just has not been looking good all of last week. We saw tons of millions of premium with a lot of contracts going in them, and they were so far out of the money as well. Like 187, that would be all the way down around here on the chart. So this would be a very large fall for this thing if that did come to fruition. But we do have to be careful because of the flow like this, whether it just be hedging because of where we are on that chart, like I said, because this thing could start to go south very quickly and the big guys need to hedge. But it also could be people taking trades because of this really good risk reward setup on the bear flag. So something we need to kind of note going forward. And also this flow is just incredibly bearish. It's very rare you see this much premium going into this far out of the money on a specific ticker. This would even be crazy on SPY, and SPY tends to get more money in terms of option flow. So we need to be very careful with this. We also saw a large dark pool print. 271 million is a lot for IWM. It wouldn't be as much on SPY, but IWM, this is definitely an eye-opener. And this happened near the low of day. This was after hours on Thursday. So another big print that we saw after hours on Thursday, kind of like I showed you with SPY earlier. So something may happen over this weekend. We'll have to look when futures open later today, which you'll be able to see after this video is posted. And then also we want to see kind of what happens overnight and where the market opens tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But otherwise, definitely keep looking at IWM, because remember, like I said, when this thing starts to go south, if it does, you need to be careful with all the other indexes. If it bounces, then that's great. Probably going to keep going and just consolidate within this range until eventually it probably falls down. But we need to be careful, because if it does fail around this time, then that's going to put a lot of stress on the rest of the market. So keep looking at the flow on all these tickers, and hopefully we'll be able to get more of a sense with confirmation this week on what will happen in the future. But otherwise, appreciate you guys watching this video today, and I'll see you guys next time.